My name is Giles Dexter and this is my poem, The Ballad of Doreen Thompson. Bakewell tart, countdown, the weekly shop. Once or twice in the dim past, the Lindy Hop. Passing trains used to rattle the Crown Derby teacups and give poor cousin Norman the most terrible hiccups. The lino in the kitchen and its faint whiff of bleach, that blasted top shelf only Bill could reach, that patch of formica where the pattern's worn off, cleaned so many times with that same old J cloth. Yes, this is Doreen's house, and it has been for years. There was laughter here sometimes, and also some tears, but most of the time life just rumbled on, and on Saturday night she checked the Vernon's coupon. A life of doilies and notepads and clean-fitted sheets, women's own and packets of sweets. There's a jam jar over there filled with sixpence and pennies, and where on earth are the last of the Rennies? There were fruit drops once in that pretty round tin. Now all you'll find is a thimble and pin as the Queen slowly fades in silver jubilee frame. Since Dor had that leg, she was never the same. The terrace is cracked where the swing chair once stood, and fat has clogged up her extraction hood. The armchairs are threadbare, the carpets are worn. In the spare room the curtain was recently torn. Doreen had grabbed it, else she took a tumble. That was the last day she made rhubarb crumble. No great excitement is coming dear Doreen's way, no inspiration to brighten her day, just the empty ticking of his retirement clock and the endless search for that still missing sock. Doreen married Bill, but it wasn't for love. They met in the shelter where he gave her a shove. An ARP warden, he, in a black tin hat. He sidled right over to where she was sat. "I didn't mean to push you. Did I give you a fright? Will you come to the dance on Saturday night?" Doreen was poor, she needed a home. She wasn't the type to endlessly roam. Twice round the floor in the grand old palais, Bill was a mover, he could really sachet. "You'll do for me, let's fix up the date. There's no time to waste, we don't want to be late. There's a war on, you know, and Hitler won't wait. So book up the church, don't be an ingrate." That was Bill, so belittling he, even when Doreen had cooked him his tea. Year after year in that Bridlington semi, they had just one child, a daughter called Clemmy. They didn't get on well, good days were hard won, but there was one trip to Devon when they had lots of sun, when the baby was tiny, still only one. That was real pleasure. She really had fun, yes, that was the happiest Doreen ever felt. That and when he bought her that smart leather belt. Bill wasn't a bad man, he worked hard enough. He just never understood all that womanly stuff. Our Doreen was kind, intrinsically humble. It wasn't in her nature ever much to grumble, but in truth she regretted the cards she'd been dealt, 'cause when Bill took his socks off, his feet really smelt. His death was a shock, but she couldn't feel sad. How could she? After all, he drove her half mad. He was just 67 in 76. That hot summer killed him. He'd been shifting some bricks. She found him in the garden by the old greenhouse. He'd been dead for an hour. On his back was a mouse. Plenty folk came to the funeral lunch. Pleasant enough people, they weren't a bad bunch. His boss said, "I like Bill. He was a jolly good chap." He had no idea he'd given Doreen the clap. That's best forgotten. It was a long while ago now. But boy, at the time they had one hell of a row. 42 years now, a widow she. 42 years of biscuits and tea. Weekly trips to the library for a romantic novel, while very slowly that semi turned into a hovel. Doreen has this year turned 98. She's still in that house, still wiping that grate. It can't go on. She's a danger to all, and she'll die on the floor should she happen to fall. So the biscuit tin's empty for the final time, and she'll never again those stairs have to climb. They've come to take her to a retirement home, the one near the co-op with the roof in a dome. How long she'll last there is anyone's guess. She's let herself go. She looks a right mess. It's downhill now to the end of the road. But at least tonight's tea is a baked sausage toad. Doreen, oh Doreen, what happened to you? To your hopes and your dreams and your beef dumpling stew? You tried so very hard to make a life that's worth living. You were endlessly kind. You were endlessly giving. And now your reward is to sit in that chair and wait for that fat woman to come do your hair. Doreen, oh Doreen, please don't ever despair. Sausage toad is for tea, and for afters, tinned pear.